Today on In the Woodyard, it's a delivery day, and we're going to talk about firewood. When is it too dry? I don't think there's such a thing as too dry. Unless it rots, turns to powder. We're going to talk about it. We're going to load some wood, we're going to deliver some wood. Here we go. There it is, a load of wood is upon the trailer. I put the covering on so nothing flies out because we're going on the interstate for a couple miles, and we're gonna go deliver this load. It's 2 face cords, 2/3 of a cord, two ranks, 2 rows, 2 truckloads. It's 2/3 of a cord. And we're gonna go do a delivery. This is for a customer that buys every year. And I've been taking from this big bin here. This is mostly ash. There is some maple in here. There's some elm in here. I saw a couple of pieces of oak. I did see a couple of pieces of birch. So a little bit of everything, but mostly ash, mainly because that's what I've been getting a lot of for wood that from tree service people that have been bringing it. So that's what's been going into this bin. And this bin this is the 3rd pile that's been in this bin since I built it. So the first pile was a couple years ago, and then last year, and then we refilled it again, and the wood is drying just excellent. It is all in the 12, 13, 14, 15% range. I did split one open and check it probably a month ago because I started selling from this pile and I wanted to check it. And I do that with all my wood before I start delivering it. I go through, dig into it, pull out a couple chunks, test it to make sure it's good to go before the customer gets it so that there's no questions. So I know it's good, ready to go, ready to burn now, dry. The way I like to say it is dry, fully seasoned, ready to burn today wood, below 20%. Most of this stuff right here is in the mid-teens, which is awesome. And that's where I like it to be. We're gonna go do a delivery. When we get back, we're gonna talk about when is wood too dry? Can it be too dry? I've had that happen where people say, if you keep your wood for more than 2 years, it'll be too dry and it'll burn too fast. We're gonna talk about that coming up. So as you just saw, I got another load of pallets. While I was doing my delivery of firewood, I got a text from my buddy next door, and he said, hey, we got a bunch more pallets, do you want them? And I am gonna be needing pallets, and I realize there's a good possibility these are gonna be moved to my new location. They could stay here, we'll see. I don't know. All I know is that when I got an opportunity to get a whole bunch of good pallets, I've been taking advantage of it. I think this is now the 4th time I've went and filled my trailer up. Each time is 20 to 30 pallets. So right now altogether there, I'm pushing close to 100 pallets, which is awesome because I will use them eventually. Now some of them are excellent pallets. They're hardwood. There's some oak ones in there. There's some in there that are maple I saw. There's a bunch of, not a bunch, but there's a few pine ones. There's some lower grade ones. There's some bigger ones, odd sized ones, which I will use too. But he texted me, and if I don't jump on it right away, he says we want them gone. I only got like a day, and he'll call a different guy. So I had the trailer hooked up, so I said I'll be right over. So I went over and loaded them up and brought them and unloaded them here now. So there we go. Now we're going to talk about how dry should your wood be, and can it be too dry? Can your firewood be too dry? That is the question of the day. Yeah, but there's a lot of variables. Now, by too dry, what I mean is that it starts to rot and becomes punky, which means that it is basically the organic material that wood is breaking down because it's been wet for quite a while, and then dry, and then wet, and then dry, and then stays wet for a long time, and then dries out. So it's breaking down, and it will burn faster if it becomes powdery. And I have seen oak that's been like that. I've seen for sure birch has been turned to really powdery type wood. I've seen it happen to soft maple. I've seen it happen to box elder. And the reason that happens is because the elements work on it. It is wet, dry, sun's on it, dry, wet, dry. A lot of times it's the stuff that's on the ground or touching the ground, or it's continuously wet, or it's in a shaded area and it never really dries out. It's got some type of a covering over the top of it so it can't breathe, so the moisture can't come off of it, so then it rots down, and then when it does dry, it turns into air, basically. I've seen that. However, there's a lot of people that heat with wood, and I'm not trying to throw spears at you, throw arrows at you, but I just know that a lot of people that heat with wood, for a long time, a lot of them burn big wood. And what that means is that they're throwing in whole rounds or maybe halves from, say, 18, 20-inch pieces. They're throwing it in whole, and it might only be a year or two old. And what happens is that wood is not dry all the way through. And they get used to that. And then what happens is when they finally put in some dry wood, it burns so much more efficiently, and because a lot of times it is smaller, like this size stuff, they have the perception that it's no good, that it's burning so fast they're not getting any heat out of it. That is a misconception. Dry wood is the best wood. The reason a lot of those people like green wood is because, oh, I can fill it up at night and the next morning there's still coals there. That's because the center of your wood is wet and it's not burning efficiently. It's burning slowly, putting off a very small amount or less amount of heat because it's wet. It has to burn that moisture off. So then they think, oh, that burned all night long. Those big chunks were good. Yeah, they would be good if they were 100% dry. You know, if it's 5, 6, 7 years old from a big, 16, 17-inch round, or if it's a half of a 20-incher where, it's this thick and it's a 30, 40 pounder that you're chucking in, and it's old and it's dry all the way through, yeah, then it's good. But if it's still wet inside, the reason you got those coals in the morning is because it's burning inefficiently. You're getting less heat out of your wood. And if you like to cut extra wood, 30 to 40% extra wood every year, because you're not getting as much heat out of it, go ahead. If you don't have the time to spend to split it and dry it, go right ahead. You're going to have problems with creosote buildup. You're not going to get as much heat out of your wood, but it's a fact that wet wood produces much less heat. Yes, it burns longer because it's not burning well. It's not burning efficiently. So if you were to take a bunch of pieces, say we took 8 of these, and it added up to a complete round that a heating guy would throw into his wood boiler. Take 8 of these. If you stack them in tight, one on top of the other, and you put them in there so that they're stacked in tight, and it's the same amount of wood as far as weight of the wood that you would have from a big round, you're going to get the same amount of heat if that big round is dry all the way through. If it's not dry, you're going to get less heat because it's burning off that moisture. It's going up your chimney, out into the atmosphere in the form of steam. You're losing heat. That's why so many people now are going to the high efficiency stoves and they want these smaller pieces, because they actually burn less wood and get more heat out of small pieces. But there's a lot of guys that on my channel, and I talk to them at shows, I talk to them in person. Yeah, I don't like those little pieces. They burn too fast. I got to have those big ones because they last all night. Well, they've been doing it for 40, 50 years, so they're just in the habit. And they don't realize the inside of their wood, especially if it's less than a year since it's been cut into a round, they're throwing it in there. The reason it's still got coals in the morning is because it's not burning very well. It's not burning efficiently. And that's why you've got the coals. And if that's what you want, knock yourself out. The experts in the heating industry, the experts that build the stoves, they know dry wood is the best wood. That's my favorite kind of wood, dry wood. So, can it be too dry? To answer that question, yes, if it rots down, if the organic material the wood is made out of is actually degrading to the point where it turns into a light, fluffy, almost nothing, and I've seen that. You want solid wood, no question about that. You want solid wood. But as far as too dry, I ask you this question. Let's just pretend you have a house, which I know a lot of you do. Let's just pretend in that house you have stuff, which I know a lot of you do. Let's say you have chairs, tables, bookcases, desks, furniture that is made out of wood. Say you've got a cabinet for holding your wife's fine china that's made out of oak. Let's say you've got a gun cabinet. Let's say you've got a bench in your back hall that's made out of wood. All of that stuff that's in your house, it's probably dry. And some of it might even be antique stuff that's 40, 60, 80, 100, 150 years old, made out of wood. Do you think it's changed much in the last 20, 30 years as far as the moisture content and its dryness and how it would burn? Because it's in your house, out of the elements. Matter of fact, your house, the 2x4s, 2x6s, the studs that your house is made out of, do you think those interior walls, those studs, would burn? And do you think they would burn just as well now as they would have, say your house is 50 years old, 50 years ago when the house was built? That wood is still good because it's out of the elements. It hasn't been degraded from rain, sun, moisture, bugs, things like that. Now, my dad had a shed, and this was probably 15 years or so ago. He had wood in there that had been in there for 15 or 20 years. And we thought, oh, that's not going to be any good because it's old wood. It can't be any good. But it was in a shed, a big shed that had some open sides on it, so it had ventilation. That wood burned excellent. It was 7, 8, 9% moisture content. It's as dry as it was ever going to get because it does reach an equilibrium with the atmosphere. And once you get into the low teens, once you're in that 13, 12, 11 range in there, it's about as dry as it's going to get. But that stuff was super dry, and it happened to be a hot summer. We took it out of there and did a moisture test. It's the driest wood I've ever tested, 7%. There was a few pieces. They were about this big that we split open. There was some oak in there, white oak. There was some red oak. There was hickory. There was hard maple. There was soft maple. There was some locust in there. There was some box elder in there. Let's see, what else was in there? Ash. There was some ash in there. It all was nice and dry. It burned excellent. Great flames. So, for those of you that think wood can be too dry, only if it starts to rot. And it is biodegraded, basically. But as far as too dry, as long as it's solid and it's kept dry, out of the rain, in the sun, in a shed, covered on the top, that's great. Now, people will then ask me like, well, you got all your wood just sitting outside like this. There's no covering on it. It's on pallets, it's on runners, so it's off the ground to keep it from contact with the ground because ground has moisture and it'll wick up, especially red oak wicks moisture up. And I don't cover the tops because I'm drying this wood to be sold. Once it's dry, yes, then you can cover the top and only the top. You do not put a shroud down around it, down to the ground, because that'll hold all the moisture in from the ground that wicks up, and you basically create a terrarium and then it'll rot. So you cover only the top. The wood needs to breathe just like you do. It keeps it in good condition, just like it does for you. So there you go. There's my rant about wood being too dry for the day. It's all I got for you today, folks. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 5:30 a.m. with another video. Right now, go watch all the other videos on the channel. There's almost 2,000. I think we're just about there. Good night, Irene.